The signs were right there in front of everyone. He showed why he would become the greatest player of all time right from the beginning. For 99% of basketball players, the first 2 seasons are to adjust at the pro level, to make your mistakes and grow. Very few can dominate the league right from the beginning. That list is even smaller when you're considered the best player in the league. Michael Jordan was one of those few exceptions. If you don't believe me, check out what was written in the UPI, or the United Press International, in 1985. They wrote that he won the 1985 NBA Player of the Year, and he was the first rookie to win the award in its 11-year history. This should not be confused with the Most Valuable Player award. That was won by Larry Bird. However, he endorsed Jordan as the league's best individual talent. He mentioned to the newspaper, quote, "I still feel he's the best in the league," end of quote. If you think that's the ultimate compliment, he went even further than that after one of their matchups during the season. This is what was written by the Chicago Tribune in 1985, quote, "Bird recently volunteered his vote for Jordan as the finest athlete he'd ever witnessed. He went off to say, he's the best ever." Wait, hold on for just a darn second. The best ever? Better than the reigning MVP himself? Better than Magic Johnson, Wilt Chamberlain, or Bill Russell? He went on to say, "Yup, at this stage in his career, he's showing more than I ever did, and I couldn't do what he did as a rookie," end of quote. Then he went on to explain in detail some of the breathtaking moves that he made at the expense of his team. No matter what they did, they couldn't stop him. This was proven in one of their matchups where Michael had a dominant performance. He ended up with 41 points on 56% shooting, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals. Larry Bird couldn't help but admire his showmanship and the never-before-seen moves, and the fact that he was toying with the defending champions must have instantly earned his respect. There was just something different about him, and Bird was able to recognize it from the start. But Larry wasn't his only victim. There were a multitude of legendary players who were able to see firsthand how special Jordan was. We first have Dominique Wilkins. Michael had an incredible all-around game. He had 45 points on 71% shooting, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks against the Atlanta Hawks. Then there was George Gervin. He torched the Spurs with 45 points on 67% shooting, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Then there was the player he was linked to the most. That's the Doctor, Julius Erving. We don't want to forget how low the Sixers were that season. They also had Moses Malone, Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney, and the rookie Charles Barkley. Even with all that talent, Jordan gave the Sixers 40 points on 62% shooting. Although this came in a loss, the message was clear. No one was safe from a scoring onslaught. The bigger the moment, the greater the competition, he was going to rise to the occasion. The world was taking notice, and he quickly became the biggest attraction in the NBA. So much so that he was voted to start for the East team in the All-Star game. He even received more votes than Larry Bird and Dr. J. Some players didn't react well to that. That is when the infamous freeze-out game occurred. Depending on who you believe, his teammates at the All-Star game actively tried to give him as little opportunities to score. This video isn't about this well-documented event, so we won't go too in-depth about what happened. In retrospect, it feels like it was a misunderstanding between both parties. The veterans took his quiet demeanor during the All-Star weekend as cockiness, while he was trying to be respectful to the greats. But there's no doubt that he felt disrespected by how his teammates treated him. This is where the NBA world saw a whole other side to this rookie. 2 days after the freeze-out game, he faced a player that was allegedly the mastermind behind this conspiracy, Isaiah Thomas. It is not a coincidence that he had the best performance of his rookie season. You could tell that he was fueled with anger, but he knew how to channel that anger and to play under control. It only makes him play better, as scary as that sounds. He ended the game with 49 points on 61% shooting, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. I assure you that it's not speculation that he was fueled by the events that occurred at the All-Star game. During his Hall of Fame speech, he personally thanked Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, and George Gervin for the alleged freeze-out game. He said he felt motivated to prove to them all why he was already at their level. Either you're born with that killer instinct or you have to adopt it. He had it right from the start. By the time the season ended, the numbers indicated that he was at their level. He led the league in points scored and was third in points per game. He also finished fourth in steals per game. From an analytical perspective, he finished second in win shares, offensive win shares, PER, box plus minus, and value over replacement player rating. In other words, he gave so much value to a team that struggled for years. The Bulls finished with the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference, and they were able to increase their win total by 11 games. These weren't just empty stats. He was carrying his team to playoff contention. That's what Larry Bird noticed, and he mentioned how important he was for the Bulls. He said this after calling him the best player, quote, "I have never seen one player turn a team around like that. All the Bulls have become better because of him. Orlando Woolridge will probably be an all-star for the rest of his career." End of quote. Larry knew a thing or two about turning a team's fortunes around as a rookie. Michael was displaying the same qualities he did in his legendary rookie season. The only thing he was off about was Orlando Woolridge being an all-star for the rest of his career. But that later would apply to Scottie Pippen. That's just the Michael Jordan effect. Now it was time to prove if he could rise to the occasion in the playoffs. Was he a great playoff performer in the beginning? Check out what happened in the first round against the Milwaukee Bucks. This was a team that won 59 games, 21 more wins than the Bulls, and had the second best record in the East. In Game 3, Jordan would give the NBA world a glimpse of what he ended up doing time and time again in the playoffs. With the Bulls down by 1, he made the game-winning jumper that gave the Bulls their only victory of the series. This remains one of Jordan's most underrated moments. It surely doesn't live up to all the other clutch shots he's made throughout his playoff career, but this proves that he was never scared of making the big shot. But the biggest sign from his early days that he would be the NBA's GOAT came in his sophomore season. He barely played in the regular season due to suffering a serious injury. He had very little time to play his way back into shape. To make matters worse, their first round opponent came against the Boston Celtics. This was the greatest team that he'd ever faced in his career. Even with the huge talent discrepancy, even while playing against a team that only lost once at home all season, even while playing against the number 1 rated defense in the league, he scored 49 points on 50% shooting in Game 1. The Celtics had time to regroup and to make adjustments to stop Jordan, except the exact opposite happened. As we all know very well, he went on to record the highest scoring game in playoff history. He had 63 points on 54% shooting. That is when Larry Bird went from calling him the best player in the world to a god. He knew how special the 1986 Celtics were, and if they couldn't stop him, the rest of the NBA would be in huge trouble. That is where we knew he would be the NBA's greatest player. But what about you all? What things did you see early on in his career that convinced you he would become an NBA legend? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.